Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jennifer Diamond, and I live a whole food, plant-exclusive, sos-free, gluten-free lifestyle for health and well-being. And today I wanted to bring you along while I make a watermelon basil ice slushie recommended by Forks Over Knives. So Forks Over Knives is a film, but it's also more than that. They have a beautiful magazine. They list all kinds of recipes and stories. They have a Facebook and they have a newsletter, and I was privileged enough to be allowed to share my story on their online newsletter recently. And believe it or not, Forks Over Knives sent me a direct message with this recipe. And so when Forks Over Knives says, "Hi Jennifer, and here's this recipe," what do? I make the recipe with you. So I thought it would be fun. It's very hot where we are. It's very middle of summer, and what we like to enjoy are a lot of beautiful fresh fruits and frozen ones. And so I have this half a watermelon that we're going to start with, and I'm just going to cut it up with you and place it in this bowl. Now the recipe calls for 6 cups of watermelon, so let's see how much we get from this. And so one thing that I like to do if I have a half a watermelon is just cut the bottom off like this and then turn it over like that. And then I just kind of take the skin off. Now you could slice it any way you want. As long as you get the rind off, then you're good. And so we're just going to take a few minutes to do this. Okay, so this wasn't a whole watermelon, so I didn't really get to show you how I choose a watermelon, but I guess I could just talk about it with you. One of the first things that I do when I look for a watermelon is I look at the skin and I look to see if there's a yellow spot. A yellow spot usually indicates that it's been sitting on the ground, and the brighter the spot, the other side of it usually means that it's been soaking in the sun and it's able to get this beautiful dark green color. Another thing that I look for is these, and I guess I should have shown you this before, but oh well, I just thought of it now, is to get these marks. Can you see these like markings here? That is like bees pollinating marks. So you want to get some that have the yellow and then they have that on there, and that usually, I understand, is an indicator that it's going to be sweet. Now, of course, if you pick it up and it feels really heavy, I mean, most whole watermelons are, right? But if it feels really heavy, or you kind of can push into the skin a little bit and it just gives just ever so slightly, that is also an indicator that it's really juicy. And so I try to also pick it up and hold it near my ear, and I tap it to see if it has a hollow sound. And that all of those different things combined together are usually ways that I choose the watermelon. So anyways, give me a second while I dump this out and we can get going with our watermelon basil slushie. Okay, so you can cut this anyway because basically we're going to be putting it in the Vitamix, but I thought I would cut it up this way and measure it so that we together can kind of have an idea of what does 6 cups look like. And so let's just do some slicing here and see what we have here. And so it's hard to fit it in that little cup, so I'm just going to cut it up a little bit and see what we get here. And of course, I'm just estimating. It doesn't fit perfectly in here, but you know, gives us an idea, right? And so I'm going to call this a cup. It's a little higher, but there are some spots in there that are not like totally flush. And so I'm going to say that's 1 cup. Now, do you have to measure? I mean, I think I would just put in whatever you want and then adjust the lemon and basil to your liking. But because I have a special recipe, I want to try to follow it exactly. And this way, hopefully it will help you if you decide to try it. And so there we go. I'm going to give that a 2 cups. We might end up having some extra, which is no problem. I love watermelon, and there are so many wonderful ways to enjoy watermelon. I'm going to go 3 cups. And the last one, the last cup, I'm going to actually see if we can cut a little bit more of it from this side, maybe a little bit like this. Just squeeze in a little bit more. Okay, so this is approximately, as close as I could get, 6 cups of watermelon, which, look at that, it's pretty much loosely fills the Vitamix. And so I'm going to go ahead and move the rest of it into this bowl, and I can use that just any old way, right? There's so many ways. And so I'm going to rinse this, and we'll be back to deal with the basil. Okay, so the recipe calls for fresh basil, and I happen to have some in my little herb container. If you're not familiar with this, I'll link it in the description. But this thing is amazing. And so what we want to do is get half a cup of basil. So we've got 6 cups of watermelon and half a cup of basil. And so I am going to use all the leaves to measure this, but I don't know. I would use some of the thinner stem as well. Maybe not the super thick stem for this, but I probably wouldn't throw it out either. Oh, well, this one I actually cut off. Let's see, what else do we have here? And you just want to pack, the directions say, pack it in firmly. So, you know, we might end up using all of this basil because pack, 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 right? We want to make sure that we get that beautiful flavor. And basil and watermelon are an amazing mixture. Although basil's good with all kinds of things. So, I mean, I'm out of basil, but look, I could probably, if I squished it, fit in a lot more. So I wonder, maybe I will put in some of these stems after all, just because we're going to be whipping this up, but you don't have to use the stems. You could just use the basil leaves, and I'm going to keep this aside. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and dump that right in on top. Right in on top. Ooh, fresh basil smells amazing to me. And then we have one more ingredient. And yes, you guessed it, lemon. Now, I have this lemon that I had in the freezer because this was a freshly picked lemon, and at the time I had an abundance, and so I froze some of them. And it just isn't thawed enough for me to squeeze it out or to peel the skin and get the inside. So I have some lemon juice that I have here that I bought. So we're going to put that in there, and that measurement was 1 tablespoon. And now it's time to whip it up. So let's plug this in and give it a turn on here. I've got this in case I need it, but I'm going to try to see what happens here. And I'm going to go slow. Whoops, that's the pulse. Okay, it needs my help. I just love a good dance party. So anyways, we're all mixed here. I'm going to turn that off and just take this off, and that's it. So how do we make it slushy and icy? Well, we do need to put it in the freezer. So I have this container. You can use any container that you have. I happen to have some super cubes, and if you don't have super cubes, you just want to put it in something that you can have airtight, although these aren't really airtight, but it does have a lid, just so that it won't spill. And then what we're going to do is pour this into the container. And the directions say to use a container that is shallow. Now, this is not shallow, but this is what I have to use. And the reason why is because when it's done, you're going to want to have a container that you can scoop out, and it can be, you know, the slushiness can be scooped out. So I'm thinking I could still scoop out of this, and so I'm going to go ahead and put a lid on this, and I'm going to get maybe another container that is shallow, that's glass with a seal lid, like the instructions said, to pour the rest in, and then we can compare it. So one moment. Okay, so here's another container. These are Pyrex glass containers with this lid. I'm going to go ahead and pour this in here. And oh my goodness, wow, look at that. I almost for a minute there was thinking, is this too small of a dish? But so we're going to put the lid on. And the next thing we have to do is stick it in the freezer up between 3 to 4 hours, and then it would be ready to serve. Now, after that point, you can scoop it, because you don't want it solid. You don't want it solid in its freezer state. You want it to be, you know, able to be scooped and slushy. But if you have leftovers, or if you're not going to use it within the 3 to 4 hours, go ahead and freeze it entirely, and then you can just let it thaw for, say, 10 or 15 minutes or so, and that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and freeze this, and tomorrow we're gonna finish scooping it and tasting it, and I just can't wait. Another thing you can do is, if you have leftovers and you did use it within the 3 to 4 hours, you can just refreeze it. Like, you can freeze and refreeze this, so you won't waste it. But all right, so stay tuned. We'll be back. I'm going to go put this in the freezer. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, Forks Over Knives, for sparking this idea and sending me this recipe. It is the next day for me, and I just took them out of the freezer about an hour ago. I actually took them out and waited the 10 minutes, and they looked really, really solid still. So I went ahead and did some other things, and when I looked up, it's an hour. So let's take a peek. We have the super cubes that I had frozen some in, and that looks good. And then I went ahead and put some in the glass container, like Forks Over Knives had recommended in the recipe. And so, whoa, this one is really liquidy, so maybe that was too long of time, but that's okay. So let me just see, like, look at, if we scrape it, it doesn't really scrape. Well, I mean, I was thinking that this would scoop, you know? So let's try these. Oh yeah, this does a little bit more. So my idea is, if this happened, oh, this one seems to be doing well. Let's try this one just to do it. So this one, so I can really reach in there and, whoa, look at that. And scrape it and scoop it, and there you go. But just to do it, if you know me, I gotta try different things. I brought the food processor out, and I thought that some of the ones that weren't easily scooped like this, maybe giving it a little whirl would help. And but this is basically what you want to do. You want to have it to be like a slushie. This looks really good. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep scraping this one out, and let's taste this one And, you know, even just kind of chopping it up. Oh my goodness, this is successful. This is great. Look at that, woo! So you could put it in a beautiful container like this, or even a glass cup with a straw or a spoon or whatever it is that works for you. And this was perfect, this particular one. So I guess you got to figure out how long to keep it out if you have it like solid and you're thawing it. But let's go ahead and taste this. And then I want to swirl this around in there and just kind of see what happens with that. You could take some fresh basil and put it on top. That would look really pretty. But this is a refreshing way to get our watermelon basil ice down and enjoy it. Oh my gosh, it's really heavy on the basil. So you must like basil. Otherwise, you might want to tone it down. But I really like this. I would do it just how it is. This is really refreshing. And I don't really taste the lemon. So if you like lemon, maybe add a little more lemon. I might even add some lemon zest to this, but it is really, really good. This might also work if you put it in a popsicle, you know, like to freeze it in the popsicle shaped little mold things. I love it. I do love it. Nice twist. Thanks, Forks Over Knives. Okay. Yummy. Cool, refreshing, flavorful. It takes the strong watermelon flavor and it brings it down a little, and it mixes very well, like I said, with the basil. And it's not overpowering because I don't really taste the citrus. So let's, for fun, plug this in. And you don't need to do this. That was perfectly fine, but I just kind of want to play in case you're in a hurry or it's, you know, not thawing fast enough for you. You could try this. I don't know. We're going to try it together. So right now I have the insert, which is the smaller one, and I've got the S-Blade, a smaller one, because this is the Breville 16 cup, and it has an insert for smaller amounts so that we don't have to try to blend it up. This is really, really juicy, so you can see. And then there's this gigantic piece of ice, you know. So that's not gonna work. Oh my gosh, let me see if I could crack. Oh yeah, and you know what? We probably don't even need to do this, but I'm doing it. You know, I just like to try things. So you could probably just do it the way I did and just scrape it a little bit, and the liquid that was in there, maybe just, you know, put it back in the freezer. I don't know. But here we go. I'm just going to pulse it. I'm going to say that's it. One pulse. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm just going to get that. It's kind of wanted to run away. Yeah, I don't know if that's worth getting this thing all dirty for. So I might just do it the way they said. But hey, now we know. So let's take it out. And let's use our little guy here. Oh, well, no, one pulse maybe isn't enough. But look, it really did work. But there is another big chunky piece here. So maybe 2 pulses would have been enough. Or you could just kind of whatever. Oh my gosh. Either way, it's all good. The flavor is great. And this is something that I am going to enjoy outside near the pool, or after any kind of, you know, exercise, or with company. So I recommend you guys give it a try. Thanks, Forks Over Knives, for the recommendation. Don't forget to eat your greens. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.